Hey everybody, today we are doing another topic video. I asked you guys what is your favorite summer movie and why. But before we do that, I'm going to plug my website as usual. It is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist and I do commission portraits, and I also sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below, and if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below as well. I am a full-on summer kind of girl. I love the heat, and I love the summer movie season. I always have. It's very nostalgic. It's nice. There's a lot of escapist entertainment. I have so many different ones, so many different categories of movies that I personally like to choose, but we will start with the first one. Rear Window. The summer setting is the key to making this movie work. Everyone in the apartment complex opens their windows to cool off, which leads to Jeffries indulging in his voyeuristic tendencies. Summer's image of childhood adventure and sunshine is a good setting for Hitchcock to subvert expectations. The only thing that can produce more sweat than a Manhattan heat wave is knowing that your neighbor has been killed and their murderer is still on the hunt. Yeah, I do agree. I mean, I think Rear Window is the perfect summer movie. Just because, you know, it's like that thing that Hitchcock always liked to say. He said his movies are like a slice of cake. And this movie does feel very much like a slice of cake. It's perfectly concise and witty, and, you know, it's everything that you could want. And yes, I do agree that the fact that it does take place in the summer, it gives it that feeling, that heat, that sexuality, of course. It gives it a reason for all of that to exist. But also just in the summer, I don't know, it feels like emotions run high, or hormones are a little bit out of control as well. I feel like libido skyrockets naturally because women are more scantily clad in the summer. And yes, all of that makes sense when we're looking at, or, you know, as we're living through Jeffrey's point of view. And in Jeffrey's case, I know that he couldn't leave, like he had to be a spectator, and that was the whole point with the broken leg. But I mean, it does work in the sense of, like, you don't have school. School is out. Like, Disturbia is the remake, or, you know, a version of Rear Window that came out in like 2007 starring Shia LaBeouf. And it has that summer feel of all the teenagers getting together and like having a stakeout. But I do think there are a lot of different movies that you could choose for Hitchcock that have a nice summer vibe, that have kind of the pulp, but they're also very dense as well. And I do agree with you that Rear Window does hit all the marks. It hits all the beats. Do the Right Thing. No film about racial conflict has been better. Spike Lee shows beautifully how a collective group filled with anger, frustration, resentment, and blazing hot summer weather can lead to disaster. The riot at the end is so perfectly shot, edited, and choreographed that it might as well be colorized documentary footage from the civil rights era of the 1960s, and has a line that never fails to get me. He died because he had a radio. That's a really great ending there. A lot of people don't mention that, or at least I don't hear it very often myself. But yeah, I mean, I just really like movies that give you the feeling of summer. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like so literal, but just the feeling of it, the tangibility. Like a Spielberg movie has that summer feeling. Virgin Suicides is very, very just summery. It makes me think of the textures of summer and nostalgia. And Do the Right Thing, absolutely, it's the textures. The close-ups, the heat, the sweat, everything is sweltering there, and it adds to, as you say, the tension. It adds to so much in that movie, but also it's bombastic. It's very bright and colorful, and music and spirit, and all of those things to me reflect summer, but especially summer in New York. I think a lot of movies that are about summer, have a summer feel to them, might feel a little bit romanticized, but in the case of Do the Right Thing, I don't think that's accurate. I mean, obviously it's something that takes a lot of creative liberties. It's a very creative piece, but yeah, it's very gritty and it's very violent. And, you know, we've seen a lot of different protests over time that take place in the heat, in the summer. And we've seen it back then, we've seen it before then, and, you know, we've seen it recently. And so I think all of that really adds to it. It's so detailed, and there's something about being able to capture a moment in time the way Do the Right Thing did. I don't know, that is what gives me that feeling of nostalgia, as I said, of a summer, a specific summer, maybe in your childhood. I look at a lot of Terrence Malick movies like that. I think they're perfect for summer, just because, you know, they're very abstract, and it just gives you little moments. Summer nights with dragonflies, watching the sunset, you know, having your feet bare while you walk through the grass, those types of things. And that might be very different from Do the Right Thing, but I think you get my point with it. But in the case of Do the Right Thing, yes, it's just a really spirited piece. And I don't know if I would say that it's the best film I've seen about racial conflict, but it somehow manages to really make it complex and open up a lot of talking points while keeping it very, very focused. And for somebody like Spike Lee, who can be a little all over the map in his career. I think that's quite an achievement. The Florida Project, great cinematography, great acting, basically the best child actors I've ever seen. Hyper-realistic scenes and story, plus you get to see Willem Dafoe beat up a pedo. LOL. Mostly, though, it's just incredibly nostalgic to me. It reminds me of my childhood vacations in Orlando and other touristy spots in Florida. I'd say Midsummer like others here, but I watch that all year round. Yes, the Florida Project is excellent. I think almost anything Sean Baker does is good for summer, though I suppose Tangerine would be more a Christmas movie. That is what it's meant to be, but yeah, Florida Project absolutely is so summery, and I feel like the color of my shirt is very much in the spirit of it. But yeah, with Do the Right Thing, it's the oversaturated look, it's the color, the brightness of everything. It's very sun-kissed, and that's part of, I think, why it feels so summery, because it is so bright. And the Florida Project is like that too. It's very bright. I just love the colors used in it. And because it does have that spirit of like Italian neo-realism, it's always catching the simplistic moments, the moments in between what would typically be the important dramatic moments in movies. So you're seeing a lot of that kind of stuff. You're seeing kids just kind of sitting on the side of the road, eating snow cones and throwing it at cars and things like that. And it feels very, very, very authentic. I could totally see myself in those kids. And I think with summer movies, there's naturally a bittersweetness to it because it's a very short time and then you have to go back to reality, at least for kids. You know, they have that time off from school and then they have to go back, and that kind of sucks. So it's very much like enjoy the time while you have it now. It has an existential feel to it. And you can feel that in the Florida Project, this feeling of tragedy. It's a devastating story, and yet they show a lot of really beautiful moments, a lot of very summery moments, but incredibly true to life while also being very artistic. I think that's the beauty of Sean Baker, being able to find the balance between those two things. And yeah, I don't know, it makes me smile a lot. I think about Mooney. She reminds me of my childhood best friend who has since passed. But yeah, so when I watch a movie like that, it certainly brings a lot of complicated memories. Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, as well as my favorite action movie. It's been a childhood favorite for some time. It came out 40 years ago, but it's held up pretty well and helped pave the way for many action movies that have come out since. From the action sequences to John Williams' score to the beautiful imagery, all of it is done to perfection. There will never be a hero like Indiana Jones, and never a movie like this ever again, as far as I'm concerned. No, there will not be, and that's unfortunate. I grew up, of course, on Indiana Jones, like most American kids, and I watched it last summer, and I was, I don't know, at my parents' house or something, and I was a little tipsy, and it was fantastic. I got excited like I haven't been excited about a movie in a long time. Look, you know, doing this, you do get a little bit jaded. Sometimes it does feel like, I say sometimes, often it feels like work. But when I was watching that movie, I just turned it off, and I just became a kid, and I was putty in that movie's hands. It was fantastic. It is exactly what it's meant to be. It's just like Star Wars, basically. It's that Flash Gordon sort of thing. It's pulp, it's fun, it never loses the spirit, but also it doesn't treat the kids like they're babies. I don't know, most of the kids' movies today just feel really soft and really corporate and glossy and, I don't know, just really afraid to ruffle feathers. And I feel like Indiana Jones, you know, like it takes kids seriously. You know, it's gross and it's violent and it's scary and I don't know. I think it just really, it really goes for it in all the ways you want as a kid. It has that edge to it, but it's always, always witty and fun and breezy. And yes, it's all of those elements coming together. It's great filmmaking. The imagery is beautiful. The music is fantastic. And it has everything. I can think of a few movies that fit the bill kind of like that one does. I would put that maybe in like top 5 of just kind of mainstream movies that are perfect for summer. Maybe this is too obvious, but I have to say Jaws. The whole plot is built around a town's main source of revenue, summer tourism, being at risk, making summer feel like a supporting character in a way. It really nails the summer vacation timeline. It reminds me of my summers lifeguarding in high school. It begins with the excitement of early summer. Halfway through, we get the 4th of July. And from there, things wind down before it's back to school. On top of all this, we get an undeniable vacation feel, sun, beaches, parades with some great thrills, the perfect summer movie. That's an excellent point, and I guess I never really thought about it, but it is very obvious. It does have that feeling. I love Jaws so much, and I think it may be my favorite summer movie, just in a broad sense, I would say. Again, in more of a mainstream sense, absolutely, it's Jaws. And, you know, talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark, Is that maybe more suited to be like a big escapist summer blockbuster type movie? Yes. Is Star Wars more of that? Yes. But I think, obviously Jaws is smaller in scale. It was more of a gateway, I'd say. But still, with that, I love the intimacy of it. I think that it's much more powerful. And I love the idea of mixing like, this kind of schlock B type movie, Creature from the Black Lagoon feel, but then also elevating it and making it, sophisticated, having really interesting characters with dimension and really taking, the filmmaking itself quite seriously. And that's something that we would see from George Lucas as well in Star Wars very soon after. But yeah, I don't know, Jaws is just, it's so satisfying in so many ways. I love how scary it is, especially in that first maybe third of the film. And I love how it slowly becomes this rousing adventure. It becomes really fun. But I always bring it back to the intimacy and the characters and how, my favorite scenes are more of the stuff like Quint talking about being on the USS Indianapolis. I think that's an incredible scene. And I also like just little things like the little boy mimicking his dad with his fingers and all of that. So there's little moments like that. You don't see that very often in big summer movies. And yes, I know Jaws is not technically a big summer movie, but it was kind of the first of its time. And that does need to be acknowledged as such. But it is really hard to go wrong with Spielberg of that era, whether it's Jaws or E.T. or Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Indiana Jones. There's just so many movies. So I guess moral of the story is Spielberg is your go-to there. But yeah, I mean, those are just a taste of them. As I said, there are all kinds of different categories. I could go more into stuff like Streetcar Named Desire, which is one of my favorites. And I admit I have a real sweet spot for movies like The Magnificent Seven and stuff like that, the Sturgis version from the 1960s. I'm sure we'll talk about more in the future, but that is the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Over here you will see my patrons. Thank you guys so much for your support. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.